Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Robert Phoenix here. Just gonna adjust the bill of my cap. Everything's backwards when you're on TV, right? It's this way, this way. Oh. Anyway, it's the best I can at this point. Let's see. There we go. All right, what's going on, FUP77 and Ryan in the house? What's happening, Mr. IW, introspective woodworker? Good to see you. We're just here hanging out, waiting for the Crimis to show up. I got to hold on. I got to deal with this cap thing. It's bugging me. There we go. It's a little better. That's a little better. Gotta have the right angle, the right tilt of the cap. All right. Hey, there's Ani, the wench with the wrench in the house. Good to see you, Ani. Man, I have been having some crazy Sagittarian syncs lately. Really crazy. The whole Sagittarian Gemini thing right now is just exploding. And Sunday night, I'm going to really focus on some very cool mundane astrology with Sagittarius in Gemini, coupling, pairing, paralleling, echoing, reflecting, all that stuff that I get turned on by. Let's see. There's my man Steve, Thor by the door, Christine Mose, 33 watching. Nancy Farrar, hello, Nancy. Happy Friday to you. Wendy Quintana, Shanna Miriam, what's going on? And we got the monkey. We got the monkey one here. There's Judy. Hi, Judy. Yeah, there's Cheeky Monkey. Frank Bry. Hi to Frank. Hey, Frank. I got a guy in Coeur d'Alene who's a client. You should probably meet. Very cool dude. If you want to connect, let me know. Purple one. We got a purple one sighting. What's going on, Purple one? Nice to see you. All right, let's. Why don't we bring the Crimis in? Let's get going. Let's roll with them. Whoa!
Where's Steve?
Here we go.
Hey, hi guys.
I see half of myself.
So, last time when I had Steve on, somebody was yelling at me on text that I was too loud and he was not loud enough. So. If you guys can go ahead and start talking.
Do a little test. How we doing?
Can you hear us?
Hey, everybody. How you doing? How's the volume?
Can you hear us well enough?
Are we in equal sibilance with one another?
How do we go full screen? Do we want to go full?
Sure.
Well, you guys are happy with me. I control everything here. It's like the Twilight Zone.
Oh,
all right.
That must feel good.
All right. I was looking just trying to figure out how to make this full screen, but at the moment I don't know yet. Okay.
I'm like a god inside of this world.
On there?
Well, you look good. Let me just tell you, you look good from where I'm sitting. Right?
Yeah. All right.
Both of you represented nicely.
We're doing okay. Hey, Robert, how you doing today? You've got your P on.
P for Pilgrim.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh, Robert, you're always like 10 steps ahead of us.
I had a funny moment today. So I'm getting a haircut on Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
And the gal who cuts my hair, I caught her. She was pulling out of the lot. And so I actually made my appointment while she was pulling out. And so there was this woman who was walking in, and there were these cops that were, ripping by the place, and they had their sirens on. And the woman who was walking in, she said, "Oh my, they're in a hurry." And I said, "Yeah, it must be somebody without a mask." And they they both got a good laugh out of that.
You got a giggle.
So, yeah.
Take
Chris,
it when you can get it.
Chris, you're looking good. Look at you. We got
I had a
broken.
reset, Robert. I had my own personal reset. You have to break some bones to start on a new path.
Yeah. Well, you're looking good, and your hair has grown out a bit, which
I'm glad it's growing a little bit. Yeah, I think it's better.
It's a good look for you.
Thank you.
And Steve's hair is shorter. I like.
No, well, it's
cool
actually, I got one of these little devices that cut and trim beards, and
Mhm.
it took like about 5 months to get it from China, and it's like the worst piece of shit I think I've ever had to encounter. But
it works.
It works. It's just not going to work for long. But
Mhm.
anyway, so I'm keeping myself neat for Chatlandia and for all our friends and what have you.
Well, the Crimis are looking good. I got to say that.
Y tú también.
Yeah, Chris, we've got a little better about the keto thing. I think just staying off of carbs a little more than we have lately since the beginning of the lockdown, which was more of a pizza pasta frenzy and all that.
But it was interesting after the fall. I just didn't want anything heavy that my body had to deal with, So I just wanted clean food. So I wasn't even tempted by carbs. I just I don't want them. So that was actually good.
Yeah, it seemed like everybody was kind of on that comfort train when COVID hit, and they were making it very easy for people to be on that comfort train and get all your pizzas delivered and go buy your booze and everything. Like, oh yeah, let's go into a food coma while we try to figure out what the fuck is going on here.
Yeah.
But I think some people are starting to kind of move away from that. And we just had a major tornado that ripped through the heartland, and I'm going to tell you, it's going to affect food production.
I know.
And they already had, remember, I believe it was was it last year or the beginning of the year, we had major flooding also in the Midwest.
Right.
Oh yeah, the crops were hit hard. Well, sometimes I wonder whether there is a weather war going on between us and China, the United States and China, looking at what happened to their pig population year before that, rather, was decimated. And then all the rains coming in, and you've got, the Three Gorges Dam is just wobbling, just ready to blow. And that would take out their whole food production area.
And it would affect the rest of the world.
So
not just China.
Yeah. So sometimes I wonder if something like that is going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are weather wars going on, and probably not confined to the U.S. and China. I bet Russia has their own version of their technology. And I'm sure our good friends in the Middle East have their fingers in that pie as well. So, I mean, I think the whole planetary ecosystem is and has been a battleground for a while. So, yeah.
You're out of sync. I guess there's nothing you can do about that?
No, I'm a foreign film at this point.
Oh. Subtitles. Okay.
Yeah, I'm What's Up Tiger? I'm What's Up Tiger Lily.
Okay.
What is it? The chicken salad recipe, right?
Yeah.
the secret chicken salad recipe.
Yeah. Probably the most brilliant thing that little perverted man ever did.
Yeah.
Was What's Up Tiger Lily.
Woody Allen. Yeah. I'm sorry, because he did a lot of very funny stuff, and it's unfortunate, that the baggage is there.
I used to watch his movies as a kid, and I thought some of them were very funny. Like Take the Money and Run was.
They were hilarious.
Bananas was really funny.
Bananas, yeah. There's that great scene where he gets off the plane with the Fidel, and they get as a translating from English to English. It's some really funny stuff he did.
Yeah.
And I think maybe his funniest movie might have been Sleeper. I think Sleeper is really funny.
Even I remember that.
Yeah, and then he goes into the satire of the Napoleonic Wars, right?
Yes.
And I don't know. I didn't see that movie. What is it called? Love and War? Is that what it's called?
Love and Death.
And then comes the Annie Hall phase, and that's where kind of the introspective kind of existential, patently neurotically Jewish side of Woody Allen begins to come out. And he was really influenced by Ingmar Bergman. That was one of his film idols.
Which is not a bad influence to have.
So after that, I was out. I didn't see anything Manhattan. I didn't see any of those movies. I had no interest in his rapidly shrinking universe. Yeah. So a lot of times when people do their best stuff when they're young, it seems in a lot of ways.
There are certain professions that are geared to young people. One of them being, there's certainly being in a band, music making, certainly the rock and roll business. There's, very few people who put out interesting things after hit their 40s. Writers, on the other hand, they mature much later. Physicists burn out like in their teens pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, you look at none of them do any. All of Einstein's work was done when he was in his 20s. The same with what's his name in the wheelchair,
Hawking.
Who's apparently on Pedo Island. I've seen those pictures. That creeped me out to no end.
Wow, interesting. I wonder what kind of cheap kicks Hawking got on Pedo Island.
Don't even go there. Maybe he has special attachments on the wheelchair. I don't know.
So I had this course in college. It was called human sex. It was like a human sexuality course, and it was taught by this guy who was an English teacher, and I took most of his courses because I really liked him. He was an interesting guy. And he happened to be gay, and he wrote a book called Jim and Jack. It was about his love affair with his lover Jack, and they were really into Paramahansa Yogananda. I really liked this guy. He was actually a really good dude, good teacher, liked baseball, and I used to house sit for him every now and then out in a wild place called Bolinas. So he had this class. So I took this class, and we saw this movie in this class, and it was basically a documentary on a guy who was a paraplegic, I believe, or if not I can't remember if he was para or quadra. Anyway, he was seriously paralyzed, and he had a woman who was his wife, and they actually got naked, right? So we saw this love scene between this woman who is fully ambulatory and this guy. And it was a very interesting kind of look into, their intimate life. And one of the things that the guy said is that he did not experience an orgasm locally, but he felt it all over his body.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was an interesting kind of look into. So maybe that's what Hawking got off on. Who knows?
I hope he enjoyed himself at something in his life. I don't know. Anyway.
So Charles says, no way Hawking on Pedo Island. What's the point?
I don't know.
So,
I just
you have to ask him.
I saw the picture. Who knows if it's real? I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. And who knows if that was even Hawking? Right, that guy lived for way past his expiration date. With,
that's the bizarre thing about him, right? How everyone. I mean, I've known people who've had ALS, and they once they start going downhill, it's precipitous, and
it hits the lungs last, and they can't breathe. So.
And so,
we had a friend of the family who died from that. Mm-hmm. It was pretty awful.
Most people don't last more than 2.5 to 3 years.
Right.
Yeah. With ALS.
Right.
And he and the other guy that's been around a long time is what's his name? Is it Steve Olson from the guy from the New Orleans Saints who has been around for quite a while now, and I think he's had ALS for about 6 years now. He was one of their Super Bowl heroes during I think he recovered the onside kick during the Super Bowl. Anyway, I guess they have for certain people. I guess they can, basically make sure that their lungs are actually working right, because that's what goes is the lungs. And I guess that's how you can stick around with ALS, because other than that, you just shut down, nerve by nerve, cell by cell. Yeah.
Someday they'll probably figure it out. But I always feel like there's a cure for everything. In my mind, I believe that somehow there's a pathway for cure for everything.
Is there a cure for stupidity? Have we found that one yet?
It's called education and good nutrition and loving parents. Yep.
Yeah, there's
triumvirate.
In one of the commentaries on, I think, the Yoga Sutras or in the Upanishads, this is there's ignorance is beginningless, but there is an end.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It may not be in this lifetime, but hey, there's an end to it.
Well, we're all
I'm sorry. I'm a little critical of
we're all working that. We're all working that angle. We're all working that angle. Right?
Well, we know that this particular brand of ignorance was imposed from without. It's not like anything else today, organically arising. Mm-hmm. It's artificial as plastic. People were purposely. Remember that book, The Dumbing Down of America?
Mm-hmm.
Who wrote that book? I don't remember. It was like in the 90s or 80s.
I don't know. I'm sure somebody in Chatland, you can figure that out.
Yeah, but I remember I didn't read it, but I thought, wow, it's a really good title, and someday I got to read that book. I never did, but it showed me then, even just the title showed me then that there was an intentional dismantling of the intellectual level and of discourse and just being a human.
Mm-hmm.
That took place, and that's part of what we'll get into today.
Right. Yeah, I was just remembering the Bush-Gore election, which was, Al Gore is just so smart, and Bush is just a regular guy. I want a president who I can, cuddle up and have a beer with,
right.
And Gore is too smart, and neither of which is, of course, true. But yeah, just setting up as, Al Gore is what passes for, intelligentsia. In this country right now.
So I think cunning has replaced intelligence and right thinking. So if you're cunning, that's seen as intelligent.
Right. Well, one of the things that I may still get around to writing about there, we've lost symbolic thinking, right? We've lost, interpretive thinking. And so that's the losing of the symbolic thinking is what allows them to turn all the symbols against us. All what once were sacred symbols are now symbols of Satanism and the dark. We lost, I think mythological thinking, and now we've lost logical thinking, and we've lost literal, even for that much. So all is left is emotional thinking. Mm-hmm. And so that is what's really running the show right now.
Yeah, Rudolf Steiner had that threefold approach of thinking, willing, and feeling. And he was saying that the will center is very important, and that's what's been attacked. Mm-hmm. So, modern people just have lost that will center where they're then just, the instrument of other people's will.
Brother Zygos has a great comment here. Mm-hmm. Postmodernism has made argumentation semantic based.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that all, and postmodernism all comes out of, what we've talked about before, Tavistock and the Frankfurt School and critical theory.
Well, let me bring this up. So Ryan, the introspective woodworker, has some inside skinny on Hawking. Let's bring this up.
Hired to do a painting. More than one person played the role.
There you go.
Well, Ryan, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that the Hawking that we saw at the beginning was not the Hawking that was lingering for the sort of the eternity of his role.
So were they like models who were doing The sitting for the painting?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they were or not, but he says that they were different people. So I thought that was
Interesting.
it's an interesting thing.
Different
right?
people in the
I
photos.
just had a bad joke, but I kept it to myself.
Don't make bad jokes.
Well, I want to hear the bad joke. Come on, Steve.
Well, I say if anybody could sit still for a painting, it would have been him.
Oh, that's a good joke.
Sorry,
That's a good Gemini joke. I like
Shouldn't
that.
speak ill of the departed Vegases.
Oh, it's okay. In this show, it's allowed as long as it's within tasteful context, and I don't think you colored outside the lines. You know what I noticed? So I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like I think it might have been maybe the Wednesday show or something, that there was this light kind of on the periphery of the frame when I was doing the show. I don't know if you noticed that or not. And I have it again here today. Do you see this? Do you see that? I don't think that's the
I just
light.
saw a little flash behind you.
No.
Yeah, there's a
What do
light
you
over here, and I think there's. You see that
on the door, like a reflective light on the door.
I'm not sure if it's a reflect. Maybe it's a
Got
reflective
something
light.
spinning a little bit over your right
Well,
shoulder.
That's the fan. That's the fan.
So that might be reflecting something. No.
Could be. I know that there was definitely a very interesting light that was kind of in the background of my right shoulder when I kind of flipped the camera around to get away from the sun.
Outdoors.
Yeah, outdoors. So
maybe you have a beneficial.
well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Yeah. So anyway, Chris, you're looking good. You want to give people an update on your shoulder?
Oh, they must be bored with it by now, but thank you. I can't tell you how many people have been so incredibly kind. The kindness is just really so uplifting. So many people have been so good to me in physical ways, with sending me things and sending me assistance and just, cheering me on, and, like Carol Askew sent me this wonderful web page that gives you the different stages of healing. So it really helped me to understand where I'm at and what I'm doing. And Joan was very kind to me. So many people. Ani sent me some equipment to help me, and Glenn Streeter and Mojo Mama came over and mowed the lawn for us, and she's going to come and help us tomorrow again. And, Lynn down in Panama was very kind and reached out. And who else? I mean, if I left anybody out, but amazing. Plus our own friends here. And I see just every day incremental progress. And so, it's encouraging. And I think, are we going to be able to drive to Texas?
Yep.
Steve massages me twice a day and puts ointments on me, makes me feel better. So, what more could you ask for? It's really been beautiful.
Yeah, sounds. And you most importantly avoided the doctor and the scalpel.
Oh, majorly.
Yes.
Well, I have this keep the devil at bay attitude about the medical population in general. I haven't been to a doctor since I was maybe 35 or when we were in a car accident. But other than that, I just think they are like, a death cult. So I always avoid them anyway. And with all this ballyhoo on top of it, like, there's no way. I don't care. If I heal as a cripple, I'm not going to a hospital. I'm not stepping foot inside the hospital precinct.
Yeah. The hospitals really, unfortunately, have taken on the sort of the identity of the killing fields now. It's really
God. It's like you're like death to me. I'm sorry, but I just have a really bad opinion of them.
And we know people who work in them. Yeah, I mean,
nothing to do with them.
Iatrogenic deaths are still about double average yearly, still double of what the CV deaths, which of course are, who knows, which are really minuscule compared to what they're saying. But either way, it's number 3 killer of deaths in the United States is the iatrogenic, and iatro means healing, genic, so brought on by the healing system. But so it's average around 250,000 people a year die from that. But that's only in the hospitals. So
plus one of my sisters, well, two
Yeah.
of my sisters-in-law, their deaths were responsible to that, doctor imposed
Right.
medication.
Mhm.
But people who have gone outside of the hospitals and done those numbers, and they say it's more like 800,000.
Mm-hmm.
So if that were the case, then really, we should be quarantining ourselves from doctors at this point, because they're the largest group of killers in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate, and that does seem to be the case. And what's really interesting is that what you're not hearing a lot about these days? Cancer, right? I mean, for ever since Nixon declared war on cancer, I think it was around 1970, 71. Whenever the Longhorns beat Penn State for the national title, there was a guy, Freddie Joe. What's his name? He played for the Longhorns, and his college career in life was cut short by cancer. So Nixon decided that he was going to throw a bunch of money at cancer.
I remember that.
And of course, we've seen, the cancer industry become just. We saw the cancer industry metastasize, right?
Yes, we did.
And but now you don't hear about it. Cancer is just like not even in the discussion anymore. We don't hear about cancer.
Okay, you mean in the public arena, not on personal. Yeah, because we've lost so many people to cancer.
Yeah, no, nobody. It's
they're just not talking about it.
They're not talking about it. It's like, okay,
anymore.
It's like we've moved on from cancer, all right, and we've moved on from terrorism, and now all we're talking about is this quote unquote coronavirus. So
ad nauseum.
What's really interesting is somebody I found this graph, and there was a very interesting correspondence with countries that use hydroxychloroquine and the rate of cancer in those countries.
That sounds familiar.
And the rate of cancer in those countries was drastically lower than in other countries. So why do they really not want to have hydroxychloroquine as part of this discussion?
Guys, they just need to move on to the next highest incarnation and just leave the rest of us in peace.
Because if hydroxychloroquine is, if cancer is kind of fungal, if it's fungal based, and I think a lot of it is, by the way,
Right.
Yep.
and hydroxychloroquine might be able to cut through that fungal infestation. That it was a property that could do that. Then it might wind up eliminating, 35-40% of the cancers.
Wow, that's huge.
Because there's going to be a time when they'll move on from corona. They will move on from this, and then at some point, cancer may, rear its very lucrative head one more time.
Right, and even the MMS, the chlorine dioxide, has helped so many people with cancer for pennies. And they just arrested last month, a month and a half ago, Mark Grenon's sons, and he's the person who worked with Jim Humble. And they may still be in jail, I don't know. And they confiscated everything and did the whole terrorist attack on them. They're curing people.
Yep.
And it's for pennies. And I believe that, in my mind, it sounds to me like the chlorine dioxide might have a similar action as the hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah.
I think they may have a similar, venue for working.
Yeah.
But it kills viruses, bacteria, fungus, blah, blah, blah. Bee stings.
I've heard this cinchona bark is actually quite good as well, and has a lot of properties very similar to quinine.
Right, I've heard that.
So people are looking to explore some of that.
There's so many things.
That's what we got from
No, that's different. That's
different bar.
Albizia.
Albizia.
But Dr. Mercola today in his daily newsletter was asking the question, why are we not talking about health and, immune system health? Just asking the question, just throwing it out there. Well, why isn't that in the conversation? Why is everybody obese? Why are we allowed to have high fructose corn syrup and everything that is put forth to people and children? And everybody knows the story.
Because maybe diseases are patented. Maybe that's why.
Speaking of patented,
Yeah.
what we're going to talk about today is going to lead to who holds the patent.
That was a good transition, huh?
How'd you like that?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So why don't you guys begin to lay down some of the background about what we're going to
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just as a warning, we are expecting B&B guests who are supposed to be here at 1:20, and I believe it's past that. So
I think they may have just sent a text if you want to check. But okay, so I know you like to do your invocation. I have one that I'd like to bring in as well.
Just go ahead and do yours.
Okay, so it's a Platonic one, and we usually do it with our sacred geometry work, but I think I'd like to start using it in our podcast. Sure. May we be guided by truth. May beauty be revealed to us, because it is a revelation, and may it result in the good. And that's the good, all caps. It's capitalized. And may it result in the good. So everything that we say today, may it be based on those three principles. That our intention here that we set is to uncover truth, to reveal the truth, and then bring back the beauty that's been stolen from us. And so we use truth as our guide, and we endeavor in everything that we do here to try to get the most honest and forthright information. So
yeah, and you can speak of those as three aspects of the logos,
which are
truth, beauty, and goodness. Truth, beauty. I see a tail. There he is.
There he is. There's the boy. Talk about beauty. Hey, Jasper.
He said, "I'm getting in on this." What's that?
Has he been allowed out?
No, I got the bamboo fencing, and I'm going to put that up this weekend. Good. So he'll be able to hit the old patio and be able to join in on the show.
Happy to get his feet on the
ground. No, he's happy to be here now.
All right, so I'd like to set this up, and the first thing I have concerns about is giving credit where credit is due. And all of our information today that we're presenting is from research that was done by a group of people from the website called Aim for Truth, and that's with the number 4, Aim for Truth. And that would be Douglas Gabriel and his wife Tyler, and then what they call their conclave of researchers. The most prominent and well-known face of that is John Barnwell, and also Michael McKibben. So
and his Michael McKibben's group is called
Leader Technology is his company. Americans for Innovation.
Americans for Innovation. That's his website. So that's where we've gotten most of the information from those two groups. Right.
Yeah, I did send an email yesterday to John Barnwell just to tell him that we bounced off their information, and we hope that everything comes out not mixed up. But I haven't heard back from him. But just as a courtesy, I wanted to let them know that we were using their information today, and that we're indebted to them. So they've done yeoman's work. And I think it all began, I'll give a little background story on who Michael McKibben is. He is the founder of Leader Technologies. And I'm horrible with dates. So maybe somewhere in the 90s or must have been the 90s. He was working on scalability for social, what do you call it?
Social media.
Social platforms. And his company, Leader Technologies, developed the software for scalability that would allow this to go large and be able to handle large amounts of flow back and forth with many people at one time. there was a lawyer who was working for them who was corrupt and a thief, and he stole the corporate information and he sold it to the government. And somehow to the government, I think.
Yeah.
And then
ended up going back to DARPA basically eventually.
To DARPA, and that became
just got here,
Facebook.
so I'll be right back.
All right, our guest just arrived, so Steve's going to do that. So that became Facebook. So Michael McKibben said, "Okay, well, we're not going to take this sitting down. We're going to sue for theft of information."
Mhm.
And so he started court procedures and filing to have his day in court. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. So this is a serious thing. And then it got as far as the Supreme Court. And guess who nixed it? John Roberts,
Yep.
Chief Justice, nipped it in the bud and said, no, it's not worthy of us to hear this case. So that's where it stands right now. But they're still pursuing it. But Michael McKibben said that was his wake-up call. He was like many of us in America who, not necessarily apolitical, but just not, okay, things are rolling along pretty well, and I have my life, and my business is doing well, and, okay. Politics was peripheral to his life in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But this launched him into wanting to understand, well, what's going on here? This is big. If I take this all the way to the Supreme Court, I've got copious amounts of information that prove my case. And then all of a sudden we get to this level and it's thrown out. Something's not right. And what could it possibly be? And I think I'll do some research. That's when he started to look into the structure of how things actually work and how they hang together. And then who comes in and what systems and what players and how far back does it go, the corruption. And what he ended up with was mountains of documents. Now, all of their work is based on research and original documents. So there's no conjecture. It's not opinion. It's not emotions. It's like, okay, they follow this trail back and it goes all the way back to England, and then it goes back to England, and then it goes back to England. And then all of these players who bring in the Rothschilds, the Carnegie, who else? I mean, there's a boatload of
Well,
these.
so the Rothschilds, can you turn me down a little bit? Because I can hear myself on your speakers. I'm
On
echoing.
mine?
Yeah.
Turn my speakers down.
Yeah, I'm echoing.
Is that better?
Let's see. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So how the Rothschilds came to in this country was that we know that the robber barons, which by the way, those guys are the inheritors. To me, they're the inheritors. When I use the word inheritor, I'm specifically referring to Tartaria and the technologies and the structures. And if you go deep into the Tartaria, well, it's a good thing Steve's not here, by the way. If you go deep enough into the Tartaria hole, you'll find the railroads, right? And so, the railroad baron.
What do you mean you'll find the railroads?
Well, the whole one of the concepts around Tartaria is that those tracks were already built, that they were already here, and that the locomotives and the engines were already here as well. And there's a really interesting video that John Levi did, and it has to do with, for a while there was this like pastime where they would get these trains and they would be coming from opposite directions on the same track and at high speeds, and they would crash these trains. And it was sort of like, I don't know, like an attraction, like a bizarre attraction. And so the
chicken.
Well, yeah, but there is no chicken about it, because there's no way that you could get one train off the track. Really what they were doing is that they were destroying these trains. because they were basically saying, look, we don't want this. We don't want this evidence to sort of get leaked out, and then we charge admission to watch these train demolitions. Anyway, so I believe that the robber barons, or that generation, that group of people, that they were the inheritors, because when you look at that time, they're just all pretty much showing up simultaneously. So they wind up managing the resources, whatever they discovered, whatever they plundered, whatever they were commercializing. Those were the guys, and we know they are J.P. Morgan, Carnegie, Andrew Carnegie, the Mellons, the Rockefellers,
Astor.
Right. Yeah, so they're the ones that come in, and they're basically running the show. And one day, Rothschild sends Jacob Schiff over to the States, and Jacob Schiff calls a meeting with the 12 of them or whatever, and Schiff sits down and says, I represent Mr. Rothschild, and we'd like to make you a business proposition. And the business proposition is that if you work with us, that you will become even more powerful and more rich than you currently are. And if you don't work with us, then your fortunes will be much more at risk than they have been. And when I say work with us, that means that you will work with us inside of your country to develop, policies.
So this was in Europe and the United States, both?
Well, Schiff came to the United States to have this conversation. And so they looked at him and they said, we're doing fine. Combined in this room, we probably have as much, if not more, power than Mr. Rothschild. And Schiff said, okay, thank you very much, but I have a feeling you'll be hearing from me shortly. And so he left that meeting. And then within the next 72 hours, they began to watch their fortunes plummet precipitously.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
So Schiff reached out to them again and said, gentlemen, would you like to meet with me a second time? And they all said yes. And that's when we have the convergence of sort of the Rothschild, Goldschmidt, banking families of Europe, the moneylenders of Europe, building and forming these alliances with the American robber barons and the inheritors. And I looked at your list of the Pilgrim Society, and you can see that Jacob Schiff is in there. Right.
The list is really, so the Pilgrim Society was formed in 1902, July 1902. And then just we'll just do a quick rundown of some of the names on this list, starting with the Queen, Elizabeth II, Philip, Charles, Margaret Thatcher, Caspar Weinberger, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., who was an honorary of the Knight of the British Empire, Henry Luce, Lord Carrington, Alexander Haig, Paul Volcker. The list goes on. I won't bore everybody with all the names. It's too long. It's very long. And maybe as the show goes on, we can run through it this way then, so people can see them for themselves. Henry Kissinger's on there. Who else? We've got this General Lord Carrington. His name comes up a lot. The NATO secretary. Now, some of these people were part of the Queen's Privy Council. And this is the tight group that's around the Queen of England. Now, initially, when I heard the Queen's Privy Council, I pictured just a small, very tight group of maybe a dozen people. But apparently, it's much larger than that. And what we have in America that's equivalent to it is the Senior Executive Service, the SES, which, what's his name, talks about it a lot.
Thomas Paine.
Abel Danger.
Yeah.
He talks about the SES a lot. But I first learned about it from these folks at Aim for Truth, and they're always harping on the Senior Executive Service that was formed during Jimmy Carter's administration. And this is a group of people in our government who cannot be fired. So the president cannot fire them. and they enjoy special privileges, and they're in all the different bureaucracies in our country.
Mm-hmm.
And they get special bonuses. And I was very heartened about a month ago. I don't know if anybody else ever picked up on it, but President Trump actually canceled. They have an awards dinner every year, and they get bonuses. So certain ones of those from the senior executive services are pulled out for their honorable service for the year and given special bonuses and honors. And President Trump actually canceled that awards ceremony this year, which I think sent a very strong message to very strong power brokers. So when you see what he's up against and who he's up against, I just have more respect for him every day, honestly, that he's taken on these amazing power brokers and that he's even still standing. But getting back to the Queen's Privy Council, so this is a group that's around the Queen, and they wield tremendous power. Now, out of this then comes the Pilgrim Society. So the Pilgrims are not the Pilgrims that we think of, but it's a society that is all of these very important people, very wealthy people, very powerful people, and they pull all the strings with what's going on. So it seems to me that if you've got something that's happening here in America with this virus that's going on, you know that it's been concocted and boiled up in their cauldron, that this is one way that they're going to help to take down and take back the United States. So England never really relinquished its hold on this country. It always kept its tentacles in here. And, I guess ending with the War of 1812, where we thought that we ejected them for the last time. Apparently not. So they still have tentacles, and it's through the SES, who is beholden to the Queen. And even our patent office, we think, we sign up for a patent. We've got this wonderful invention. And Michael McKibben talks about this. This is how he was fooled. He applied for a patent for his technology. And that's part of how they were able to steal it, because the patent office is held by England. All the patents actually go to the British Crown. So then they're able to then say, okay, this has come up, we want it. Then they talk to the people in the SES and say, make it happen that we get it. And it's whisked away from the inventor. And he said, look, I'm not the only one. There are inventors, innumerable inventors, who've come up with the most amazing things that could help humanity. And they're stolen by these people. So he said, but this is how I got into it, that it happened to me. It was his red pill moment, and he started doing the research. And that's how this whole, what they call their conclave of researchers, got started. So it's Aim for Truth, and then McKibben's thing is Americans for Innovation. And I think there's a whole list. I gave a list of links, and I would appreciate too did you get those links that I sent you of John Barnwell and Michael McKibben, their interview?
Yeah, I'll put them in the show page.
Yeah, and I CC'd Steve Mercer. So those are the interviews that we took this information from. And I think it would really behoove people to just sit down and, with a cup of tea and enjoy those interviews, because they're very enlightening. They really go over the whole thing. But so they had this connection, and the Pilgrim Society then would have these dinners, and they would honor themselves. And then they would invite, let's get started. I think we should have an American version of the Pilgrim Society. So now there is also an American Pilgrim Society, and they would have their dinners every year at the Waldorf Astoria. And they're going across the pond every year and collaborating with the Brits, and they're really just British wannabes. So, this is the Rockefellers, the Mellons, and then part of this network ends up to be, and I'm just going to read off some of what the network is with this bunch. So you've got banks, law firms, insurance companies, the United States media, Operation Mockingbird, the British media, MI5, MI6 infiltration, universities, fraternities, cultural, scientific, revolutionary societies, religion, Templar and Masonic orders, big interests in major think tanks, Rockefeller, Morgan, and other big interests in Great Britain, the State Department. State Department plays large in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very large. Even if you listen to Sibel Edmonds reading her book when she was doing her translating, she goes back all the time to how corrupt the State Department was, even when she was in there, and she was like just after 9/11, she was hired as a translator, and she was saying she was being groomed by the State Department to come over to their side and be dishonest, and she resisted. God bless her. Then you've got early Pentagon ties, the National Security Advisors, and elite grooming. Mm-hmm. Founding of the National Security Administration.
Elite grooming is one of the things that they like to do. They thought that Americans would just be tickled to be getting like all these little titles from the royals. So a lot of the people that are in the Pilgrim Society have all these, British honorary knighthoods, and the Knights of Malta also show up quite frequently with these people.
Okay, so early CIA ties, the what do they call themselves? The company. And corporate groups. What else is in my notes? Pilgrim's domination of the Democrat and Republican system. So we've all heard this and we know this, but this whole two-party system is just smoke and mirrors. Mm-hmm. That these people are transnationals. They don't care about parties. They don't care about countries. They especially don't care about countries. And where they're headed more is towards a technocracy, where they would just love to eliminate the idea of nations and nation states and just bring in the technocrats. And so there would be no elected officials. There would just be the technocrats. And we see that with the pharmaceutical companies right now. Who's running the country? Anthony Fauci, right? So you can get a taste of it. You can get in Sanskrit, they call it rasa, a taste. And you can see that there's a taste of that already. And that's what these people are after. So they are looking to destroy culture, cultural identity, national pride, national taste, and just have everything be one bland artificial intelligence landscape. Yeah, good. There's Michael McKibben.
So I found this while you guys were cruising around, or when you were talking, I was just cruising around a little bit. And this gives a little bit of background on Michael McKibben. And apparently he was a Christian music minister, technology innovation.
Yeah, spent some time in Russia as well.
So this is, I just scraped this. But it seems like it's a pretty good, hey, Jasper's playing music.
Jasper, get down, Jasper.
So it seems like some pretty good background here on McKibben, and I'll add this link as well. Mm-hmm. And these are connections and ties, I guess, to the Catholic Church and the Pope. I guess some background here. I don't know what that's about.
I haven't seen.
But here we go. This is where things begin to sort of. The turning point, with Glasnost, and then there's the revolutions, so the singing revolutions, all this begins to come into play, and then here we go. This is where the story really kicks off, right here, I think, with Larry Summers, who I sent you guys that flow chart probably about a year ago. that had all the players in this, and I wish I had this in front of me. But Larry Summers shows up again and again and again and again through a number of administrations. And the other person that shows up a lot is Sheryl Sandberg. And Sheryl Sandberg is, she's not the CEO. I think she's the VP at Facebook. So this is where some of this information comes in.
Right. And also the other person who shows up a lot, and this is Paul Volcker.
Paul Volcker.
Who is an actual member of the Pilgrim Society. They actually showed the documents, with his dues paying on there, along with Henry Kissinger.
Yeah,
so Volcker is Volcker is an actual member of the Pilgrim Society.
Their latest coup is they were able to get the tax returns for the Pilgrim Society. Michael McKibben's group was for 2014,
18 or something.
18 or something.
Anyway, maybe.
Yeah, interesting. And wasn't Kissinger on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least Kissinger pays his dues.
Interesting. Paul Volcker, that guy.
Oh, Chandler. That's the lawyer.
Chandler.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Robert. But
Chandler.
James P. Chandler III, he was their patent attorney. And he's the one who stole the patent information or the technology information and sold it.
Okay. So you're saying about Volcker?
Oh, he was single-handedly responsible in many ways for ruining the economy in the 1970s when he ran the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, he was head of the Fed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, they were the interest of the prime was almost close to 30%. So that was a time when there was pretty significant economic prosperity. And because there were a lot of people who had blue collar jobs, paid well. So there was this is just prior to the service economy being instituted. So there was a lot of money that was kind of being circulated amongst the working class. And Volcker made sure that you weren't going to be able to touch any money that you could use for investments. It was very, very difficult to get cheap money during the 70s. And his whole, argument was that if money was more available to people, then there would be out of control inflation. And that was just patently wrong. And so Volcker, may his soul rest in hell, because he retarded the economic development of the country through. Now, he was a front man, obviously. I mean, that's really pretty much what he was.
They all are.
But that's the face that we associate, with him, or with that actual, oppression. And it was oppression. It was a way to keep the middle class down.
These games that they play, it's just so stunning. So, like on the corporate structure, you think, well, if you have 52% of the stock, then you've got a leading share in the company, right? But there's this option that they call the golden shares that the British Crown, that the Queen owns, and she has the golden shares in Lockheed Martin, is it?
Lots of places. Lockheed Martin's one of them.
Where she gets the vote. She can outvote anybody. So it seems as if, that's all this fairness. But then there's this one entity, the Queen, who owns the golden shares, and she says yay or nay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something else that they discovered, and they brought out that this is actually what's going on, and that she's controlling our military-industrial complex through these golden shares. So this is a wake-up call for me. Up until about a year ago, when I started learning about this Aim for Truth website and started reading it, and so much of it was so complex that I had to ignore it for a year. When I finally was able to settle in and look at it, this picture emerges of the enormity of what President Trump has taken on to fight to get the country back for the people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how you feel about him. This is what he's going after. And when you understand, well, why was he spied upon before he even got into office? These people were apoplectic because they knew that he was not one of them. He's an elite, but he's not an insider. And they knew the jig was up. So that's part of it. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Well, I'm just going to say, did you get into the controlling of the patents being huge? Did you get into that?
Yeah, that England owns the patent.
Right. So
patent office was moved to England.
Right. Okay.
It actually used to be held in 3 libraries in the United States. One was in Chicago, one was in New York.
But the idea being that if you control the patents, if you see every patent that's coming through, and you're an investment banker, you can see down the line what's going to happen. Right. So part of that was having to do with controlling, your investments, or, if you were part of Tavistock and you knew that, you're going to be promoting the Beatles, you would invest in Capitol Records.
Yep.
Right. Was it Decca who famously turned them down or something like that, I think. So it's that kind of thing. So you control the output, and you can control the investments before they happen. So it's insider trading, just as an art form, really, just writ large, big time. So that's the how the patent office gets run. I did not realize it, but what's the company? Is it not Purebright? What's the company that runs the?
That runs what?
That runs the patents. Our patents are run through a British company. All our patents are run through a British company.
I can't remember the name of the company.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember. I've been stuffing so much information in my head.
Yeah, we were up till midnight last night cramming for this exam.
A few of it comes dripping out here and there.
So that's James Chandler. This guy right here. That's James Chandler.
Yes.
And on that sort of chronology in the flow chart that I sent you guys. And by the way, all the pictures, the facial pictures of these people show up in this flow chart. He is in almost every station of that flow chart. This guy, this is the guy who's like the Magic Johnson of the patent world, right? Everything is just going through him.
Okay.
And is he still around by any chance? Is he still alive?
I have not heard of him in the past tense, so I'm going to guess he's still around.
This would be a very interesting person to have a sit down with. Not me personally, although I'd like to have that, but just in general, because he's like super under the radar. This guy is super under the radar.
All of these people in this whole complex of structure, who knows about this? Nobody knows about this. And we're all, and these are the people who've got everybody at each other's throats to throw the scent off their trail. So they always stay under the radar. So I would just like, really, guys, wake up and smell the coffee.
Okay.
It's not a black-white problem. It's not a Republican-Democrat problem. It's not a rich-poor problem. It's a power problem. It's the needle in the arm for these people is power. They are addicted to it. It's their drug of choice. And
go ahead.
No, I'm done.
So did you get into like how it was founded, or
a little bit? But you can say more if you like.
All right. So the characters at the beginning of this, so you have the people like Cecil Rhodes, these guys named Henry de Worms. The head people in the British Empire in the Victorian age, late Victorian age. All right, so they realize that the empire is waning. So they need to have some sort of control mechanism in order to maintain their empire-ness. All right. So right after, it was apparently like a couple of months or a month after Queen Victoria dies. So this would be the date is actually 16th of July, 1902. All right. So they have their first meeting. Now the purported it's labeled as a U.S. Great Britain friendship group. Okay. But it's what it is, it's formed of all the leading newspapermen, the bankers, and the industrialists on both sides of the pond. So you've got Carnegie, you've got J.P. Morgan, and you've got all these sort of British luminaries at the time. And what happens is that they decide to form what's basically the intelligence service out of this consortium of bankers and newspapermen. Well, who better than newspapermen if you want to control the message, control the propaganda? I don't know if you have the coat of arms or the book cover for the Pilgrim Society, because it's kind of telling.
This,
or Chris can hold up the book.
I can just hold it up.
And a little
back further.
A little higher.
All right, wait.
But what you can see.
Oh, you're looking for that?
Well, what you can see is, so this is their coda hic e ubique, which in my bad Latin means here and everywhere. So that's sort of like, a nice motto for the British Empire, right? We control everything. But you have the British lion in front and the eagle sitting on a horse behind the pilgrim. So it's obviously this is designed for being Great Britain's leadership. Okay. And on top of it, which is kind of interesting for their coat of arms, there you see ships, so for 1902, the ships, cars, maybe some telegraph. So all the technology. So that was the other thing. So that's why you have all of the railroad men. You have all the telecommunications groups coming in and forming this group. So they're controlling. It's not only they're controlling the message through the newspapers, they're controlling the delivery system of it all through the telegraphs. There was like their big thing was controlling the transatlantic cable. So they could sit in London and fire off stuff, and it'll be around the world now. The Rothschilds. Henry de Worms is a Rothschild. One of the founders is this guy Rose Bloom, something like that accent.
I'll find it.
Anyway, he married the richest woman in the world, Lord Rosebery. So he was one of the first guys in the Pilgrim Society. He married the richest woman in Europe at the time, who was a Rothschild person. Who was a Rothschild. So all that money, all that banking money, is coming into there and forming this group.
Also, they because the empire was on the wane and they were realizing it, they're like, well, what can we do to reclaim our power? And they started this movement that they are calling the neo-imperialism. And that's what this is at the base of all this quest for power again, for reclaiming power.
Right.
How would we do it? But that's their term for it, is the neo-imperialism.
Right. So you had representatives from the London Mail, London Times, the New York Times, Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, Newark Herald Tribune. You're also going to find almost everybody who's in the Pilgrim Society. I wouldn't say almost everybody, say 80 to 90% that I saw were either from Harvard, Yale, Stanford, and Oxford. There's really only 4 places that almost all these people come from.
Yep.
All U.S. ambassadors are automatically members of the Pilgrim Society, and they seem to be formed. Newspaper people, Walter Cronkite was part of the Pilgrim Society, and Henry Luce Booth, right, who did Time, Look magazine, and I think he may have had the Herald Tribune, I forget. Also all these people, all the newspapers were controlled in this. And then it moved into Hollywood, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. So there's another, obviously Hollywood has been one of the biggest messaging systems, as you know, and as you've studied, greatly, Robert, how that works.
And they also realized that the power of having the media is that they could use the media to drive the markets, to fill their pockets. So with having constant war, and the media pumping up the rhetoric for constant war, and now look, constant strife amongst the people. This
Right.
puts money in their pockets. This is how they make their money.
Right. So
Yep.
yeah, and you got the Rockefellers, John D. and David Rockefeller, Alan Dulles, our dear friend Alan Dulles, and his brother John Foster Dulles, the Dulles boys. Who founded the CIA, who did the Treaty of Versailles at the end of World War One. They're involved in just about everything nefarious. The Iran overthrow in 1953. We're still feeling reverberations for that. And then all these also form into the Council of Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Charlie Rose was a member. Oh, that was one of the
most skeevy.
The most vomit-inducing interviews I ever saw was
see that.
Charlie Rose and Henry Kissinger.
Oh,
Henry, you're so great, Henry. Oh, man, yes, I know. I am so geopolitical. It's just like, oh man, it was ill. So
I remember seeing.
I remember the first time you guys got to turn your volume down.
Down.
Yeah, on your speaker.
Again, is that better?
Hearing myself. Yeah, I think the next addition to the Crimis studio should be headphones and a microphone. By the way.
Okay. So can we get like double headphones? How do we do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Because as you know, your profile is getting larger in the world, and you have to. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to wear a veil.
Hey, you may be wearing something very close to a veil in the not so distant future. Anyway, so yeah, Charlie Rose. I just, I remember the first time I saw Charlie Rose on TV. I was asking myself, what is this guy doing in this role? I mean, I thought he was one of the worst interviewers I had ever seen. He was nervous. He was kind of all over the place. He seemed, kind of slimy. I mean, I was like, when I first saw him, I didn't know who he was, but I was kind of repelled by him. And anytime I saw his show pop up on PBS, I think, or maybe later CBS, I was like, not interested, just not interested. And now that I've known that he's been connected to this kind of web of people for a long time, but that was just my first visceral reaction. With he didn't really like Cronkite, who we had up earlier. Like Cronkite is another slime ball, but Cronkite at least had that kind of genteel sort of, hey, let's make everybody feel calm and safe vibe. And Charlie Rose was just like the opposite. It's like he was on 11 cups of coffee or something,
Yeah.
And another, you'll like this. Apparently, the Pilgrim Society in their buildings housed Vladimir Lenin when he came to London between 1902 and 1911. They housed him and tutored him in London. So I guess he was picking up a few pointers from them. So just in case you didn't think there was a lot of connections between things.
So who is this guy right here? You guys shot me this picture. Who is this? Who's this guy?
That's Elihu Root.
Oh, so his name shows up a couple times on that PDF.
He shows up a few times. So he's the first head of the Council of Foreign Relations. He's a lawyer for Carnegie and for Boss Tweed in New York. He was the first ambassador to the Bolsheviks. And he was also critical in passing the 16th Amendment, which was what gave us our lovely income tax. I think there's a few other things, and then he and Andrew Carnegie who founded the Council for Foreign Relations.
I thought that was. I thought that was.
Well, amongst there were a bunch. What's that?
I thought that was more recent.
No. Council of Foreign Relations goes way back.
Okay.
So a lot of that's another organization or a an operative organization of these guys of the Pilgrim Society. So so Elihu Root, and he's a good friend, and you'll like this one too because you're a fan of Hemingway. That Elihu Root was was his best friend was the president of Columbia, Nicholas Murray Butler. These are all Pilgrims, and he was the president during the influx of all the people from the Frankfurt School into Columbia. So he brought them all in, and this particular president of Columbia overturned the Pulitzer Prize for Hemingway's "For Whom the Bell Tolls" because he didn't like it, and he apparently was somehow able to veto the Pulitzer Committee, and so there was no prize given that year.
Interesting. All right, here we go. This is Frank Zappa's grandfather.
This is Frank Zappa. So this guy is pretty interesting. Now let me. What's that? What are you missing? Yeah, this is yours.
Oh, no wonder you stole my paper.
I stole. This guy. Now this guy comes through in the stuff with the. He's also an early guy now. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name now. Did I put it under an email? He said basically that newspapermen should run the world. So he was big into this coordination between newspaper and government. W.T. Stead, that's his name. W.T. Stead. Okay, and he was if my memory is correct here, I think that's who this is. So he says government by journalism. So again, he was part of this beginning founding of the Pilgrim Society. He was a journalist. He was a huge, kind of yellow journalist in London, and but he was also an interesting spiritualist, and he's one of the people that remember that whole thing with Houdini and all these people who are supposedly photographing fairies and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Right? So he was actually a true believer in all that, and then I think it was Woodrow Wilson. No, Taft. Taft invited him over to do a conference at some sort of Carnegie conference in America, and he went down with the Titanic.
Really?
So, yeah. So that's this guy W.T. Stead. So he was big in this sort of in the journalism field, and this sort of
which is
propagandizing.
kind of surprising because I always have this imagination that the Titanic was the trap to get rid of the people who were against the Federal Reserve.
No.
So maybe he was just a casualty, but
well,
unintended.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think everyone was had a hit on him.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he was another one of these people that you never heard of or whatever, but they have Wikipedia pages, and they're all easily found. But it's just their connection to the Pilgrim Society is the thing that's been kind of kept under wraps until now. Like I said, both all the Rockefellers, Standard Oil, Dulles, and then John J.P. Morgan, Sandra Day O'Connor, first woman in justice, right? Is a member of the Pilgrim Society. In fact, she and Margaret Thatcher are the only women I've actually seen on the list. But these are a list of notable people. Alexander Haig, remember Alexander Haig?
Yeah,
He was Nixon's chief of staff.
Yep. He was also with Reagan as well, right?
Right. So he was the one who said, "Yeah, I'm in charge" when Reagan was shot.
Yeah, a lot of those guys come out of the Hoover Institute in Stanford.
Right. Hoover Institute shows up a lot. Stanford shows up a lot, and Yale, and all these things keep on showing up a lot. So,
who are these characters right here?
Well, those are the guys at the founding party, and the guy on the left, his name is Britton. There's something Britton, Harry Britton. So he was also one of the founders of the Pilgrim Society. Two of them are British generals. One's a general, one's a colonel, and I'm sorry because I've been. I put the name in the email I sent you, but I put the caption, but I don't remember offhand. So these are just some of the characters in there that I was able to find.
Interesting.
The other, so
then should we talk about the Empire Press Union?
Right.
being formed in 1909. And they had a colonial committee, which became MI6, a house committee, which became MI5, and an archive, which became the GCHQ.
Right. So again, the intelligence comes out of the press.
So this is just like, 6 years after the forming of the Pilgrim Society, which was 1903 in America. It was 1902, actually.
Right.
In England, 1903 in America. Then by 1909, they formed the Empire Press Union, which then spawns MI6, MI5, GCHQ. So the big reveal for me was learning that, and I think most Americans are under this misconception that the press has been infiltrated by intelligence agents, where actually it's the other way around. The press was formed as an intelligence agency because they understood that, well, who better to gather intelligence than press? The newspaper people are all over the world. They're gathering information. They have boots on the ground. They're, face to face with people, interfacing with everyone on every level.
Right.
They're intelligence agents. So let's formulate that into a cohesive structure. So we get MI5, MI6, and then GCHQ, and then you get CIA, FBI, and blah, blah, blah. So that, to me, was a real eye-opener. And when, sometimes you try to express to your friends, well, okay, so this is not really true. And they go, oh, I know, they're all lying to us, and that's the blow-off that you get. Oh, I know, everybody, I don't know who to believe, so I don't believe anybody, and I don't believe you, But they have formed an opinion regardless. So they're not doing any research or hard looking into the situation itself, but they formed an opinion, and they just refute anything that doesn't match what the opinion is that they've formed, not realizing that without really scrutinizing it and knowing who the players are and what their motives are, all right, then you can discern, well, you can put it through that filter and give it that acid test. And does it pass that acid test? Okay.
Right.
What comes out in the wash? Does
So
it feel true? Now do you trust these people? You never trusted them before. Why do you trust them now?
So this guy's the first president of the Pilgrim Society, right?
Right. So he was there for 12 years.
And his last name is Roberts. I wonder if there's any connection with Chief Justice Roberts.
I don't know. It's probably a fairly common name, but who knows? These are all lineages. These people are all extremely interconnected. And do you have
John Singer Sargent did the painting?
Yeah, John Singer Sargent, who did the Olmsted picture we have on one of our books. Do you have the picture of Lillian Scott Troy?
Oh yeah, that woman. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought she was really interesting. One, because she was just this woman, Lillian Scott Troy, in London, who I think is American. She was from San Francisco, actually. In a story in February 1912, she actually blew the whistle on the Pilgrim Society back in 1912, which is amazing. So she actually printed out their main objectives, which is a pretty incredible bullet list. Now, what happened to her by it's like 2 days after World War I ended, they confiscated her property and sent her packing back to San Francisco. But I give her kudos for pluck, especially at that time. But she actually printed out in this article from 1912 the objectives of the Pilgrim Society. So among them are diminishing the power of the president, increasing the power of the president so that he would be stronger than Congress. Supreme Court only judges agreeable to absorption by Great Britain. court rulings. One of the things is that I talked about a little bit earlier, handing out all these awards and honorary knighthoods and things like that. All right, giving out scholarships. The Rhodes Scholarship, of course, Cecil Rhodes is sort of the godfather of the Pilgrim Society. So the Rhodes Scholarships were enormous, and Bill Clinton being one famous one, and the Susan Rice, right? I think she was a Rhodes Scholar, if I'm not mistaken.
And Rachel Maddow.
Rachel Maddow.
So it's Cory Booker as well.
Cory Booker, right? And look how well they turned out.
Well, it's interesting that I guess John Barnwell and McKibben were talking about when President Trump was elected, and this group is saying, well, now what are we going to do? He actually won. So what's our plan? Well, the plan is we will pour more and more money into education and Rhodes Scholars and foundations so that we can, keep infiltrating the education system and mold it to our wants. Mm-hmm. So that was, I don't know how they found that little tidbit of information, but that's what they were reporting.
Yep. Another of their things is kind of interesting is to arouse popular feeling against Irish immigration by giving wide publicity to all individual cases of rejection of immigrants for reasons of poverty, insanity, criminality, or disease. The poor Irish, the Shanty Irish.
Oh, hi. This is a good chart.
But most of it's a 24-point thing, and it gets long. But you can see they all are about maintaining British superiority and control over the United States. So this is the chart which gets into a few things, but it reminds me of an amazing Polly chart. Now she gets into the Pilbright and the Wellcome Trust, who are involved in this. Now Lord Pirbright, sorry, I get confused with Pillsbury, Lord Pillsbury and his doughboys. So the Pirbright Institute comes from Lord Pirbright, who was another pilgrim, and the Pirbright Institute is the group that has the patent on the coronavirus. All right, and that's something that Polly got into.
And that's also known as Wellcome Trust.
Right, and so the Pirbright Institute folds into GlaxoSmithKline, and you can see the connections with this chart, World Health Organization and all that, and obviously Bill and Melinda Gates, the Wellcome Trust, and I didn't get a chance to revisit it, but Amazing Polly did a video connecting on that, and I'm sure there's a good screenshot of one of her charts, and you see Harvard connected into there, and then of course and then the mouthpiece of the news is Reuters, which is a Rothschild based news agency. There's the Serco, which runs the patents.
So a side note about Serco is that they control the U.S. Patent Office from London, and they control all new innovation, and it's run by the grandson of Churchill. His name is Sir Nicholas Gomes.
Right.
And he's listed in Epstein's Black Book. And let's see, Serco is the one who was responsible for the Obamacare website. Remember that debacle? Mm-hmm. The U.S. government paid over $1 billion to create the website for Obamacare. Originally, the patent offices were housed. Oh, so here, originally the patent offices were housed in Washington, Chicago, and Detroit in libraries that were financed by Andrew Carnegie. And
but they're anti-libraries. They're the libraries you can't get books out of.
And he very much wanted to return the United States back to the British Crown. Mr. Carnegie did. He was a big Anglophile. Mm-hmm. So that's a little side note about Serco. And interesting, I like that they have the actual patent number for the coronavirus.
In case you want to build
10,130,701 is the number of the patent for the coronavirus that is owned by these people.
Right, and it's through Pirbright, right? It's through Pirbright owns the patent on it, correct?
Pirbright Institute,
yes. Right. So that's all connected with these Fookers.
Mhm.
It just goes to show you the stunning.
And maybe the last part is the Marshall Plan.
Right.
So the last part that we have some information on is some loose stuff about the Marshall Plan, which so Marshall Plan, everyone gets in their basic history, was the rebuilding of Europe after World War II. And this is someone named Wild Bill Donovan, who was one of the founders, or he's head of the OSS at one point. Winthrop Aldrich, who was from the Rockefeller Foundation, chair of Chase Manhattan. This guy Henry Stimson, who was a bonesman, he's partner with the aforementioned Elihu Root. He was and Carnegie. He was the Secretary of War. And there's a guy named Edward Lansdale. So, and then Alan Dulles is involved, and Robert Patterson of the Council of Foreign Relations. And what happened is that they, this guy, especially this guy Edward Lansdale, who was kind of like the plumber for these guys. So he went to the Philippines, and he got the gold, or some part of it anyway, from that the Nazis stored in the Philippines. Not the Nazis, sorry, the Japanese. And then also what the Japanese, what the Nazis were storing in, and all those salt mines and all that sort of stuff, and all those caves.
The artwork.
So they took all that money, sent it, laundered it through the Bank of International Settlements, which I think a lot of people have heard of. That's sort of, the controlling bank of controlling banks, supposedly, and that's in Bern.
It's in Bern?
Yeah. And so that money is what funded the Marshall Plan. And so, but it wasn't just, this idea of, we really like, Europe and we want to build it back again. But what it was, and if I can find my little list of the companies, but actually it was basically funneling money to a bunch of American companies through this Marshall Plan. Not only American companies, but also newspapers and also universities. So the Marshall Plan turned into this huge boondoggle of taking that gold, that stolen gold, and redistributing it through all these organizations.
So it was money laundering, really.
So I'm going to run through a list of who these people are, just the more famous ones who got money through the Marshall Plan, through these Swiss bank accounts. All right, 20th Century Fox, B'nai B'rith, Bristol Myers, Carnegie Foundation, CBS, Chase Manhattan, Coca-Cola, Columbia University, Harvard University, General Foods, Gillette, John Deere, Carnegie Mellon, Newsweek, New York Times, Pratt Whitney, Raytheon, RCA, Russell Sage, San Francisco Chronicle, Seagram's, our dear buddies up north, the Bronfmans and the Nexium funders.
Haven't heard much about that
Standard
lately.
Oil, which is the Rockefellers, the Teamsters, of course. I was a Teamster, by the way, for a short time. University of Penn.
I was impressed.
Wachovia, Washington Post, Wesson Oil, of course, very important. And those are just like some, some of the group of schools and companies, corporations who receive that money from the Marshall Plan. So that's another whole unknown thing that went through these people who were involved with the Pilgrim Society. And through the Council of Foreign Relations, this whole connection between the OSS and the young CIA was formed. This and Marshall Plan, of course, that year 1947. That seminal year where all sorts of stuff went down.
I'm sorry, I didn't ever make a list of all the things that happened in 1947. That was such a pivotal year. So many things. Area 51, and the list. Every time I hear 1947 now, my ears perk up because so much changed in that year. It's almost like their 2020 year where all these power structures were put into place in that time as well. There seemed to be nodal points in time for these implementations. Another thing to say is that the United Nations is the vehicle for a lot of these organizations to run their power trips through.
Yep.
So, pretty obvious, but it bears repeating.
Yeah.
This guy Elihu Root won the Nobel Prize. Did you know that?
Yeah. Yes. They're
So
like
did Kissinger.
They're like Kissinger
And Obama.
Like 5 of them won Nobel Peace Prizes, and they were obviously there was never a war that they didn't like.
Amazing.
But it's like a problem, reaction, solution. I make the war, and then I'll, when I'm done with it, when I'm bored with it, I'll bring about peace and get the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right. Right.
Trump's the odds-on favorite this year now.
For the Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah. Well, Obama got one, and Kissinger got one, and Gandhi never did. So
Right.
Right.
Are they even going to have the Nobel Peace Prize this year?
Don't know.
They'll hold it on Zoom. They'll hold it on Zoom this year. What was really weird about the Obama thing? I think they gave it to him when he was in Sweden, right? Or was it? No, was it? I think it was Sweden.
It was before he was inaugurated.
Yeah, but he was in. I think he was in Sweden, and then there was this really weird blue spiral light.
Yes, in Norway.
It was Norway. It was in Norway. That weird. I think that's where he was. It was in Norway. Okay. So there's this really weird connection with that blue spiral light and Maitreya. Do you know Maitreya?
Yeah, the future Buddha.
The last Buddha.
Right. So there's this theory that that Obama was Maitreya. Like when Maitreya showed up
I remember that.
in Kenya, that was really Obama. And when you look at the face and you put the beard on Obama, he looks just like Maitreya. Looks just like him. And who was the guy that was pushing Maitreya, the artist? What was it? Benjamin Creme. Remember him?
No, I don't know him.
Oh, you guys, we could do a show on this. This would be a very interesting show. Yeah, because Benjamin Creme was this artist, and he claimed to have this psychic contact with this Lord Maitreya, who was going to be this highly evolved being, entity, this avatar, who would come into the world of human affairs and save humanity. So he wrote a number of books on this and claimed to have psychic contact with Maitreya. And there is a series of photographs of Maitreya showing up in Kenya. And that's where the Obama connection comes in. And then there's that weird moment when I think it's in Norway and he's getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and that spiral, that blue spiral light shows up. And it's also connected to Maitreya. It's like I did an article on that a long time ago. So anyway, I'm not sure why I'm talking about this, but it's connected to that whole Nobel thing. And it was, but if you look at that here, I'll even show you guys since I remember
it. Yeah. And I remember that there was talk about Obama being this sort of savior figure when he was first elected, and everyone was, kind of starry-eyed about him. And we were too in the beginning.
Well, I used to sing, but every one of my friends used to never liked it. Obama, hey, Obama, 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 from JC Superstar. People thought I was insulting Obama, which I was. Anyway.
So here's the picture. Since I'm going off the path.
And do you remember pictures from, was it one of his campaign rallies or something? Or maybe it was after the night he was elected? All the orbs that were over the crowd. Did you see that photo?
No.
there were like millions, thousands or millions.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, now I remember it. Yeah.
The whole sky, the whole atmosphere above the crowd was filled with orbs.
So there you go. Here's your Maitreya Obama overlay.
Oh, too bad we can't see his ears. That's how you would tell,
a Buddha.
Unfortunately, I mean, Obama, big ears is, considered in Buddhism an auspicious sign. Because the Buddha had big fat ears.
So how are they having an image of Maitreya? I thought Maitreya was the Buddha of the future.
Well, this was the guy that Benjamin Creme was marketing and promoting. Okay. This is the one sort of appearance of Maitreya in
Nairobi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever
became of him?
Well, I don't know. Ever since Benjamin Creme passed away, you don't hear a lot about. I mean, I still think his foundation is around, but he was the front man of the Maitreya thing. There's Benjamin Creme.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he looks familiar. Okay.
Well, and here's more of the Obama sort of Benjamin Maitreya thing. Anyway, it's an interesting little rabbit hole for people who clearly want to have a distraction from the most current rabbit holes we're digging around.
Or relief from.
Yeah, because we hardly have any.
Exactly.
So that I know that's a lot to digest, and we didn't even approach it for a good year or so since they've been putting all this information up, because it's all documents, so many documents on their website. So if you're document oriented and you really want to know facts over opinion, I think these people have the corner on it. Actually, I haven't heard anyone else talk about senior executive service to the degree that they do, other than Able Danger. And no one that I know is talking about the Pilgrim Society.
So let's just round this up. It looks like that they have figured out a way to basically cover all the exits through the media, creation of the media, being able to control patents.
Well, creation of the intelligence from the media. Yeah.
Intelligence from the media, intelligence are all part of the same sort of strand, which is very Gemini, by the way. Very Gemini.
That's awesome.
And then let's see, they've got control of the patents. They have the banking. They've got the banking. They have the research institutes like Tavistock and to some degree the CIA and the universities.
And a big piece is the pharmaceuticals.
Right. And they can create trends. They can create trends. They can create products based on trends, and then control the patents and the shares of the company so they can ride the wave up. Wow. I mean, it's what we're looking at here is like an octopus, really, is what it is.
Oh, yeah. And they sell the masks. So every time someone asks you, why don't you wear a mask? Point them to this website. So, take some time and just learn why.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. What did George Carlin say? It's a very small club, and you're not a member. Is that what you're a member?
No. Yeah. No, and they were really reiterating how these people really do think differently than you do.
Well, of course. I mean, I was just trying to put my head inside their head, and if I moved in those kinds of circles, and I knew that the group of people that I was involved with were creating reality, really.
There you go.
Creating reality, profiting off of the creation of reality. How I would view me or you would be very different. I mean, I might actually look at you like an insect, really.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So maybe this is part of our fun for October is to create our own elitist
group. Our own society.
And and because we are elitists, we know what's going on and they don't. So we can start from there.
We'll incorporate.
Come up with a coat of arms.
Mm-hmm.
Or we'll just, find one under the mud in Tartaria somewhere. And
you missed it, Steve. While you were out,
one.
Robert snuck in Tartaria.
I'm sure he did.
He's like, Steve's gone.
Yeah, Steve, we're going to go Tartaria heavy over the weekend, by the way. That's going to be...
Good. I'm interested in it.
Over the weekend? Oh, yeah, right. Great.
Yeah. So, I'm thinking we could be the clan of the jumping spider. I think the jumping spider has become our
Have you looked up spider medicine or something?
What,
spider medicine is like the weaver of tales. It's a storyteller. Right?
Exactly. Native American Spider Woman is the person who brings this world into being.
Yeah, from the
logos, really, in a way.
From the Hopi creation myths, Spider Woman, grandmother Spider is she weaves the world together while her twin sons make a mess of things. Pocong Hoya and Pocong Hoya. So they're just bouncing around the world, making a mess of things and creating the world, and Grandmother Spider fixes it all up and puts it back together again.
Well, and it keeps going back to people who really understand the dynamics. Say, we really need to understand it is a tiny handful of people who are controlling us. I sort of feel like a member of the Pilgrim Society when I walk into a store without a mask now, right? That now I know how they kind of feel, right? Because I'm not wearing a mask and everybody else is wearing a mask. Mm-hmm.
So I'm being half joking here, by the way, but I think that there's some truth to that because they're very select, right? They're just a few, and everybody else is sort of just this kind of sea of NPCs, really.
Yeah.
Right. So when I go into a store without a mask, I feel like, that it's a similar kind, and anybody can do it. I mean, you can try it on for size, but I think it's a small window into that world where you just see this kind of bland similarity in all these people who are just kind of following orders and kind of, zombie stepping through life. I mean, I'm sure that's how they view us.
Yeah.
And they're frightened. They're frightened.
I feel lately, because we were just in the store the other day, there was one other person without a mask in the grocery store. And so I reached the point where I almost feel like I'm on a movie set.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was really affecting me viscerally to be in those situations, but now I think I've abstracted enough where it feels like I'm watching a just a weird science fiction movie.
Yeah.
And and I'm just watching it at this point.
Yeah, I think there's like stages of being mask free.
Okay.
The first stage is being slightly uncomfortable, and then trying to gauge how other people are kind of looking at me, reacting to me, and then if you do that enough, you kind of get past that, right? Then it's the sort of, oh wow, I now am in an episode of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
This is now what this has become, an episode of the Twilight Zone, because you could be objectified enough, past that kind of initial phase of feeling uncomfortable. And then I think there's another stage after that, which is, I think, kind of borderline power, right? Like now all of a sudden you realize that you have a certain amount of power that these people don't have. And I mean that in the most kind of, I don't know, egalitarian way to express this without sounding egotistical, but it's true.
Right. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you have the power to be free and independent amongst a group of people who, for whatever reason, have decided that they're going to put a mask on. Right. And they all have their justifications. And I don't know what comes after the power stage, but I think once you get past the Twilight Zone stage, then that's when it gets kind of interesting. Right. And I think that's when we have a very tiny aperture window into how the elites might view themselves.
Yeah. A little side story. Maybe it addresses your thing about the power. We went to chiropractor for Chris.
Just
You talk about it?
sensitive in case anyone's watching who might have been there. So.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
that's all.
I'm not talking anything about the. Anyway, we went to. So we had X-rays taken out of chiropractor's office, which was great because we didn't have to go to any sort of, medical place to have that done. When Chris first got hurt, he's
You're gone.
he's spiraling away.
There you go.
So anyway, we get into we had been there before, and no one said anything about us not wearing a mask, though they were all masked. We went to so we went back again on Wednesday, and there was another young woman at the desk, and we were talking to the other person we had met before, and she keeps on trying to butt in. Excuse me. You have to wear a mask. Excuse me, you have to wear a mask. And then Chris said,
Well, I thanked her. I said, thank you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it very much, but I have a condition. I can't wear the mask. And she was very polite about it. And, oh, fine, no problem. Sorry. Didn't mean to be intrusive, whatever.
but
They were very nice and
right.
professional about it.
But she, but what it turned into, and then the woman who was the X-ray technician came up and started talking to us. We got a nice, interesting conversation. She seemed to be tuned into a bunch of things, but and I said something along the lines, well, there was this recent study, the Dutch study, et cetera, and they seemed like really relieved to be able to bitch about having to wear the masks,
To express.
and then the other girl and the other woman took it. The other woman we were speaking to took it off and talked to us for a while. So they're all. So it seemed like they were. It sort of gave them permission. You know what I mean? To just kind of express themselves and say that this sucks. Whereas they're just kind of doing it because they think they're being good to everybody or being some sort of responsible citizen.
I think it's worse in the healing professions where they, that's where it's really being implemented so strongly. So any of the staff in those kinds of places are going to be really under the gun to wear them and promote them. So it was just a sort of a relief that they understood. They understood where we were coming from, and that and then we were talking also about this new condition that the dentists are noticing called mask mouth, where the person's mouth dries out so much that the gums dry, then you get conjunctivitis, then you get bacteria, and then you get, that ends up being heart disease. And one of the patients was on her way out. She was just paying. She's like, really? She was like, whoa, does that happen if I just wear it a little bit, during the day? So people need to understand that there are almost instant ramifications from wearing these things all day. It's just not something that you go without any kind of consequences if you comply. It's not only your psyche that's being infected, but your mouth is being infected with all the bacteria that should have been expelled. So, that's logical.
Well, you guys did a good job, congratulations.
Well, you know what, Robert, I often think you're always saying in the morning, well, it's your mindset, it's your mindset, it's your mindset. So before you go out, have your mindset of how are you going to behave. And so I did construct in my mind, well, I would be very polite and respectful and thank the person for their concern. And that really was the right thing to do. That really made all the difference. To be belligerent doesn't help anybody. You're not going to win over anyone with that kind of an argument or anything like that. But to understand that not everybody wants to do it, but they're forced into it because they have to pay their rent, feed their children. So, but, stand for something or you fall for anything.
But
next step is the needle in the arm.
Yeah, I think about a lot when you talk about that. I think about a lot when I was growing up in New York City, and whenever I went out to another neighborhood, with my friends or something like that, there was these series of things we do. You'd have you'd have a couple of bucks in your wallet, and you'd have most of the money in one sock, and then you'd have, and at the bottom line would be like in the bottom of your sneaker, you would have bus fare in case everything else was stolen, because that's what happened when you went out to other neighborhoods. And that's, it's not that's kind of like I feel now. I'm going out to another neighborhood. Okay. My neighborhood is gone, whatever it is now. These are the conditions, and this is the way I have to approach it and navigate it.
Yeah. Circling back, I'd like to know if anybody in the chat has any questions, or if is there any feedback, or
I can't get to the chat right now.
Oh, you
Sorry.
can't. Okay.
No.
Okay.
And funny, I try to pick us up on the phone, but actually we didn't get a notice, which is really weird. We always get notices of the show.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Okay.
Anyway.
Anything else?
I don't know.
No. So good job. I mean, I think again, even though this was, a cursory but pretty well-rounded look at this group and the people involved, it gives people an insight into, again, how controlled our reality is. And what's really mind-blowing is, I just watched a video before we got on the show today. And apparently, Black Lives Matter is now hitting the suburbs of Seattle, and they're yelling at people to leave their homes.
I saw that.
And because they need to have those homes back because the area had been gentrified, and that the problem with them is the guy that runs their company. So they're talking about Jeff Bezos, right? Amazon. So this is very, very interesting, and it's kind of an admixture of a class war and a color war. Like they're blending the class war and the color war now, because they are looking at supposedly the head of that company, right? And Jeff Bezos, who has and Amazon has. Supported this movement. By the way, Jeff Bezos over the last 6 months has sold $6 billion worth of stock in Amazon.
So is this in a neighborhood where Bezos' company is, and that's why?
No, I think what they did is
into it,
because the people who live in that neighborhood more than likely work for Amazon, and in fact, what they'll do is they'll find out on the real estate rolls. Who lives where? They'll find out where they're employed. I mean, this is
in proximity. Okay.
This is high level, mob warfare, doxing. But if these people really wanted to put their time and energy to use, they'd probably go up the food chain a little bit. And,
this is my fond wish and desire, is that people will begin to get some toehold even into where they should be directing their discontent. And it's not to the rest of the people, the citizens who are victims. I don't like that word either.
Well, but the people who are doing this, they don't want to hear anything that looks like it's alternative.
No, they don't.
Information. They don't want to hear it. They're just going to shut it down. Apparently, that video that I played with the young gal that got strangled in Melbourne because she wasn't wearing horrific video.
Horrible.
Apparently she's South African, and I think she's actually still in custody. But an interesting sidelight to that is they posted that on Reddit. And the amount of upvotes on Reddit for that post was shocking. Basically, people were in favor of her being abused by the police because of her anti-mask sentiment, which is quite bizarre because those same people would be in disfavor of the police if they were doing something similar to, say, something like George Floyd, right? So their kind of punishment or their relationship to authority is very, very selective and troubling, to say the least. Because if the authority is willing to put the boot on the people that they believe are their enemies, then they're all for it. But if the authority is willing to put the boot on the people that they are advocating for, then they are clearly against it. So it's not that they're anti-authority. They are very much pro-authority as long as it backs as long as it backs their ideology and their mind and their their mindset.
Really what they want is revenge. That's all they're after.
I think it's deeper than revenge. I think revenge, like if you get something done and out of the way, right, that's usually some level of revenge. Like, I think of revenge as being very temporary, but they're after something different. It's deeper than revenge. It's
Does
much.
It have a name?
I don't know. I don't know if we have. That's a really good question. I don't know if we have a name for whatever it is we're experiencing because of the depth and the incendiary quality of this thing that just does not seem to nor want to go away. And I think we're encountering a whole new definition of the human or the subhuman condition.
Well, I think that's why these characters said the first thing we need to do after President Trump's election is we need to double down and triple down and quadruple down on education. And, so Rhodes scholarships and other college scholarships, and get this agenda bore it into the brains of the students so that we're raising up these people to think the way we want them to.
Yep.
Because it's worked. Because this is, we're already seeing the marvelous results of it. And so, to, kill off the rest of the life force, we'll just double down on the education. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's why I think the work these people are doing is it's like lifeblood. The more people who understand the dynamic, at least you have something to work with how do you even fight back on something if you don't know who your enemy is or what they're plotting against you or what are they up to? So, you're like lambs to the slaughter. So you need to, get a little gristle. You need to be.
And in fact, knowing who your enemy is, and theoretically they are our enemy. Really they are, because they have held back our development and our evolution. Think of all the patents that they've killed. Okay. Think of all the ideas that could have catapulted us, 50, 100 years ahead. Right. And if they were scaled so that they could have been part of the social economy, everybody would have benefited, right? Yes. Everybody. But now, we haven't had a really, robust introduction to the world of technology really since this damn thing. So, but I'm sure once they get all the 5G towers out and the ubiquity of everything, then I'm sure they'll bring out their new fancy toys, and fancy toys that won't be liberating, but will be more about control. Right. That's another show for another day.
Well, I hope people do follow the links and watch those interviews that I hope we did justice to. And these two men, and I have 15 pages of notes myself, and Steve did even more. They're just talking off the top of their head. They own this knowledge. They've been at this for so many years. Michael McKibben lived it. So he knows all the names. He's got all the players. He's got all the connections without notes. And John Barnwell as well. And they're very pleasant to listen to. It's a pleasant conversation. John Barnwell has this beautiful demeanor where he always looks like he's slightly bemused, Well, God bless him.
He comes out of this Steinerian, the best thing you can do with the devil is laugh at him.
Well, maybe we can get one or two of them on the show. That'd be good.
I think it would be brilliant.
Right. Well, we did put in some emails to connect with them, and and if that works out, I'll definitely make the suggestion.
Cool.
Because what he says is the best thing we can do is get this stuff out there. So we did that hopefully a little bit today.
Yeah, they're practically begging people to take this information and share it. So
look good.
That's what we did today.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll have you guys back in a month, and I
Right.
guess that'll be the last show before the event in October. And by the way, apparently a lot of you are very, very ambitious and have already made reservations with the hotel. And you need to let me know if you've done that.
Oh boy, not us.
We need to get on the stick.
So, and I guess before we go, we do have a new book coming out, and it's just been the title. I just approved the title. It's September 1st is its official release date, but I'll be putting out. I'll be sending out a notice. Anybody who's not on the Logo Sophia mailing list can let me know. Looks like Robert's frozen. And
Are you frozen? Blink.
So, but I'll
No,
assume that I'm still unthawed or thawed. Anyway, so we have a book coming out by Mindy Meltz. It's a wonderful first book of a fantasy trilogy, and there is a plague in it.
There is a plague,
though it was written a few years ago.
Right.
So,
and the title is?
The title is After Ever After. So it's taking four well-known fairy tales, and doing the after ever story. What happens after the fairy tale situation? So it's Cinderella, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, and Sleeping Beauty. And she does a beautiful job weaving these four stories in together. It's very spiritual. It's very it's just beautifully done. It's a wonderful book. So that will be out very soon. As soon as I can make an announcement, so make that available.
Yeah, I'm sorry you don't have the artwork of the cover because it really is.
I should have sent it to Robert, but we'll have the book itself next time.
Yeah, it's another beauty.
I don't know what else to do. It's just us. I don't even know if we're on.
I don't know. Robert's gone. So
maybe we'll just close
thank
up
everyone.
shop. Yep. Use your head.
To discern what's real.
Use your heart.
To know what's possible. No, right? To know what's possible.
We're not Robert Phoenix.
We
really appreciate everyone coming. And I guess we're gonna. I don't know. I think we can shut it off from here. Oh wait.
Back.
Yeah. So for some reason, I got thrown into the void.
You did.
But yes. But it was mind blowing. Mind blowingly empty.
The head heart thing, but we couldn't remember the ending.
We did do the sign off.
So yeah, hey, listen, if you have made a reservation, please let me know, because I need to compile a list so that we can complete the other phases of our transactions. It's very, very important. Real quick, I know this is completely off topic.
Good.
But have you ever guys watched this cartoon Rick and Morty?
Cartoon?
No.
I don't like animation.
So Rick and Morty, I used to watch Rick and Morty with my kid, which is questionable to begin with. But it's on Adult Swim. And I have to say, Rick and Morty might be one of the most genius creations I've ever seen. It is totally. Now, Lil says it's disgusting. It is disgusting, but I'm a guy. And the reason I brought it up is because there are scenes where Rick and Morty go into these like portals, and all kinds of like crazy shit happens in these portals. It's anyway, it's just a little aside. All right, hey, thanks for being here. We'll see you in a month, and use your head in order to discern what's real. Heart said what's possible. Find the Crimis at their website, Logo Sophia
Books.
I always get it confused with press. Logo Sophia Books.com. LogoSophiaBooks.com. And then I'll be back on Sunday night, Astro Live. And the next time I see you guys, you're gonna have great headphones and a wonderful mic, and it'll be Crimis next level. Man. All right. Take good care. Bye for now.
To everyone who was so nice to me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye for now.
Ta-ta. How do we get out of here? Leave the studio. Bye.